All right, thanks for bearing with me. Just like to get all the I's and T's crossed and dotted. And let's see, you ready for some questions? I was a little distracted in the beginning because I see things like this. That's better. That's not crooked anymore. All right. Anyway, how's your summer going? Good? All right. The question, we'll start with the actual question that came in. And I'm going to read it because it's kind of long, and I think it's a good one, though. It says, "Hi, Miriam. I'm a pile maker. To avoid making or finding a place to put all of the paperwork that comes through my door each day, work, catalogs, cards, bills, coupons, receipts, etc., I make piles. I do have good intentions of doing something with these piles someday, organizing them in a fashion in order to make my tax return filing easier, but inevitably end up reorganizing the pile after weeks or months of sitting where I placed it. I need an easy system to use that doesn't take up much room, is easily accessible and labeled with different topics, and is flexible enough to change midstream or year if needs change. Can you help? Barbara." Actually, Barbara, this is a fabulous question, and exactly why I created the 1-Minute Mail Solution Kit and the Streamlined Paper Solution, both of which are available on the website. The 1-Minute Mail Solution Kit is my free offer. It has everything you need to know to set up a mail processing center, and then there's a mini course to tell you how to get those papers processed. The Streamlined Paper Solution is an online course, not free, but not too expensive, $97, and it describes exactly how to create a flexible yet structured filing system for the stuff you do keep. So the two together work really nicely together. You can go with just one or the other to try it, but basically you have the beginnings. Your attempt to categorize a few piles, you may be over-categorizing. Most people dealing with paper over-categorize. Instead of saying these are all the different kinds of paper, you need to have a system for each kind of paper that you're keeping. And if you think of the system first, where to put the paper automatically filters in. So if you have a bunch of paper you need to read, you need a reading system. How am I going to read? Do I set up by my lazy boy? Do I do it in bed? Do I do it on the toilet? Where do I put my papers that I'm going to read? And when do I create the time to read those papers? Not, I'm going to put these here for now and I'll read them eventually, someday, one day. You actually create a system for reading. And then the papers you need to read go right into that system. See how that works? Let me just have a sip of coffee here. Like I'm not hyper enough already, right? Now, in terms of the bills and the correspondence and the things that need some other action, I create a money system. And then I know where the bills go. Bills come in, they go to the bill paying system, the money system, and then on the day I pay bills, they're where they're supposed to be, and I pay the bills, and all the stuff I need to pay my bills is right there. The stuff for correspondence, it can go into the bill paying system to be processed around the same time you pay bills, or it can go into a correspondence area. So the system has to go first, and then the papers go into it. Not, I have papers, and someday, some way, I will create a system. Same with your tax system. You take your statements that are tax related after they're paid, and you put them into the file so they're handy. Whether it's digital or physical paper, you create, how is it handy to do the taxes knowing that I need to keep this paper for taxes? Very few people need to keep much for taxes. If you run your own business, I do know I have a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs on my list, so maybe you're one of those. And I didn't write down which Barbara, I'm sorry. I can't remember. I only kept the actual question, not the full email. So I would say, if you're an entrepreneur, yes, there's going to be a slightly more complicated tax system that you would put the papers in, but basically it's the same thing. It's Is it a tax-deductible expense? That piece of paper must be kept, and it's a rotating system. I like to set up 7-year rotating system for most of my clients. There's a few exceptions. Some people have HIPAA or legal ramifications for keeping papers longer. But for the most part, 7 years covers you in any state in the United States. And you create a system that's rotational. So at the end of the year, when you pull your papers together for taxes, you pull the papers out of this year's current system and you consolidate them and put them into one folder. I actually happen to have mine right here because I had to do an extension this year for technical reasons. And so my stuff is still out because it's not done. But I use these gusseted folders. I label it with the year. And that's where all the supporting documentation goes. I have 7 of these. This one goes into the drawer, and the oldest one comes out. The tax return itself is kept forever. Now, of course, this can go digital. I just don't scan. It's just as easy for me to do the paper. I have this mirrored in my computer for the stuff that does come electronically in the first place. So I don't print anything extra, but that's still the few pieces that come through as paper. So it's more, you have to have the system to know what to do with the paper, and then it sorts itself out. Now, interests folders for things you're interested in finding out information about, those are much more rotational as well. You keep the information, the new information, while you're learning it and incorporating it into day-to-day life, and then you let it go as soon as you get it. So you don't have to keep every single article on something. You keep your favorite version of how to do something for reference if you need it at all. You keep the research until you buy the thing, and then you've bought the thing and you don't need the research of why you chose to buy the thing. You just have the thing. Now, I know there's a lot of talk lately about Marie Kondo and how little paper she has people save. I don't go quite as drastic as her, but I do love a good plastic file folder. And I have some right here. Wait, I did have one. Where is it? Sorry, it was stuck in the drawer. I couldn't pull it out. So these are what she talks about, keeping 3 or 4 of these on a bookshelf, so that's where all your paperwork goes. And I actually could get my filing down to this these days if I actually scanned. If I finished turning off all the paper notifications, which I've been doing slowly over the last couple of years, just kind of one account a month I tackle. And it's about to get down to one of these. But I love these. They have a nice gusset, so they hold quite a bit, and there's a cover if you need it, and a string, and they sit nicely on a bookshelf, and either this way or that way, and they look fabulous. And then you don't even need a file cabinet because you have just the key papers. So if I were to do this, I would have one of these for my investment information, one for my banking information, one for my insurance information, one for, you know, my hobbies and interests. But you could get it down to less than 10 of these for sure, if not even more than that. So just to keep the key information, not every single piece of paper ever. One thing that can help you let go of some of that paper is realizing that about 80% of what we keep is proof that we know something. So you don't need it because you know it. You don't need the proof, really. Okay. Let me see. I'm not sure why. This is not really letting me see the questions that are coming in. Let me see if I can do this without it making a crazy noise. And see if anyone else has questions. I have 2 people actually watching. Who's here? Who's watching? Oh, I should probably turn on my chat thing. So do you all know how to navigate around the Google Hangout? If you hover your cursor over on the left, you will get a series of icons for different things you can do. The top one being chat, and you can open the chat box. It'll open on the right. And then you can type away. Hello, everyone. if you have another question, you can type it there. If you are, alternatively, you can type it under the Google page over here. I don't know. Sometimes I think there's a little too many, or a few too many options when we do these things. So just know that I will eventually kind of glance at everything real quick. But yeah, too many decisions. So I may be trying out a different webinar platform in the next couple months to see if we can get more people on. I'm a little concerned that some people don't sign in because Google Hangouts are a little bit cumbersome if you aren't familiar already, and I know it took me several months to work it out when I first started using them with the coach I work with. So just have some patience and see what's happening. Let's see, when was this? Okay, so here's another question. Did I do this one last year? Okay, so this question, this was kind of follow-up stuff from another thing. So I did that last time. Never mind, I have other questions. So someone was wondering, what's the difference between a goal and an intention? And I've actually been working on this blog post about intentions, because I read about goals or habits last month, and I've been working on intentions. And so let's see what we can come up with right here. Intentions are actually specific commitments. And it's interesting that it's what allows us to focus our efforts. So if you have an intention to do something, you're more likely to do it if you think about that intention. I'm going to work out. I'm going to organize my kitchen. I'm going to do this. It becomes a goal when you write it down as, I'm going to work on it this day with this deadline. Here's my measurable aspect to it, and the SMART goal thing, that you specific, measurable, attainable, repeatable, and or time bound, and I can never remember SMART. I don't use SMART very much. I'm not sure why I'm talking about SMART when I don't use it myself. But it has to be specific, has to be time bound, and you have to have a deadline or the steps involved to get you there. They can be adapted along the way, but that's what makes a goal. Versus an intention is just, I'd like to do something someday, and it will help you focus. So you need both an intention and a goal to work through tasks and achieve things. But the intention is the powerful piece. It's the part that ties the goal back to a bigger picture want. It's the course of action that you intend to follow. Once you put the time on it and create a measurable result for the intention, like I'm going to work out 3 times this week, or I'm going to run a 10K at the end of 6 months, those things, that becomes a goal once you have the plan in place. So intentions are really, really powerful when you think about them as a way to focus your attention. Can help, let's take these Hangouts, for instance. I wanted to be available to people to ask questions at a regularly scheduled interval where the expectation of getting an answer could be established. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff that had to go into it. I used to do these as calls. They went fairly well, but after a while, people weren't showing up anymore, so I took a break. And then I thought it might be fun to do them as videos instead, and maybe see people when we were doing these. So I looked into various platforms. I decided what date and time I was going to do them. I created the email campaigns to get everybody informed, and learned how to post them on Google, and made those decisions, figured out the steps involved, schedule them, I show up, I do it. So my intention was to be available for people to ask questions. The goal was to get a hangout on the air, a webinar, and learn how to do that. So now I do it. And then every month I have the goal of doing one more. But the intention is always just to be available for people to ask me questions. So I hope that helps clarify that a little bit. It's a tough one to really wrap your head around, and it's taken me a while. And just knowing that the intention is the part that keeps me focused on doing what I need to do for my clients and the people that may be clients in the future, or the people that just are interested in organizing and need a question or two answered. It's what makes me available to spread the organizing knowledge, if you will. So that's intention, was one of the questions that came up. Let's see. Someone wanted to know this is from Bonnie. This was a while back. She asked a whole bunch of questions. Oh, I know. These were from, these are good questions. Okay. So Bonnie wanted to know, how can getting organized help me find more free time? And this was part of an interview series that I participated in a few years ago, and she sent me such great questions that I kept them on hand to do as extra questions for filler. But how does getting organized help you find free time is such a great question, because it's where I started. I was trying to create free time. That's why I got organized. I wanted to be able to do things. So bottom line is, the fewer things you own, the less work you have to do taking care of them. That frees up your time to do other things. Also, knowing where the things are that you need to do the things you want to do help you do the things you want to do faster, easier, with less stress. It's just handy. If you know where your coffee is to put in, and the coffee filters to put in your coffee maker, you're much more likely to actually make coffee. If it takes you 20 minutes to find the coffee and the filters and where are the mugs and, oh my gosh, what's in the box over here? Is it in that other cabinet? Is it out in the garage? Where did I put it? You may never get around to making coffee before you're running out the door and just grabbing something at Starbucks instead. So the reason to get organized is to support the work you want to do and the fun time you want to have. Bottom line, you know where you have, where it is, and how, and have fewer things to take care of, you have time to do that stuff. Bottom line. Love that question. Thank you, Bonnie, for coming up with these fabulous questions 3 years ago. Then another question she asked, which was fabulous, is how can I get everything on my list done? Well, you can't, so stop trying. Interesting people have a lot of interesting things to do, and there are only 24 hours in the day, and so chances are that you're not going to have time to do everything you would like to do. It comes down to, how do I prioritize and come up with the one thing that I really need to get done? And then what is the next thing I really need to get done? And then what is the next thing I really need to get done? And that becomes a way to prioritize, to come up with one priority at a time. So the focus stays on that priority, and it ties it to your big picture wants, because it becomes really evident that it's not that important to polish the silver weekly or monthly if you only entertain once a year. It becomes really obvious that you need to get gas before you go pick up the kids so you don't run out of gas on the way to get the kids. It becomes very evident that having some routines in place that make things easier, and knowing where your things are, and being organized and systematized about how you maintain your stuff, frees up the time to be able to do more of the things on your to-do list, but you still will not ever finish all of them. I recommend having routines in place and then picking 1 to 3 other things you're going to do each day. I prefer 1. I like to be able to focus and have some space around it, but running my business, most of the time I have 3 other things that I need to do. And that just helps you pick 1, then work on the next one, and then work on the next one. And you'll get so much more done regularly. All right, so I'm still here. I'm just hopping up. My cat has been waiting to be let in for about 5 minutes. Ordinarily, I'd let him sit out there a little bit longer. We only have another few minutes that I'm going to be here, but it's about 100 degrees outside, and he gets very hot out there if I don't let him in when he's ready. So, oh, another question. Let's see. Oh, let me just real quick double check, see if another one got posted. And see, this would be much better if people actually sent me their questions ahead of time. 7 people had questions, and then I didn't actually see any of them send them in. Only one. Barbara. Thanks, Barbara. Appreciate the question. The question was really good, too. I like the way you worded it. It allowed for lots of learning. Okay. Yep. No one else has asked one, so I'm going to go back to my pile, and we'll do one more. Is there a secret to motivating myself to stick with a system? Yes. The secret is to tie why you're creating the system in the first place to a bigger picture want, a desire, something you really want to have happen in your life, a way of expressing your good intentions. You have to tie it to that. There's no reason to have a laundry system if you could care less what you look like when you go out the door. There's no need to have a grocery shopping thing if you only go out to eat at restaurants. Like my aunt and uncle, they actually don't own food. They only eat out. They don't like to cook. So they don't need a grocery shopping system. They need a toiletries shopping system, but not a grocery shopping system. So you have to tie it to how you actually want to live and have a reason of why you're doing it. If you don't know why you're doing it, it won't work. So create your systems around your big picture desires, and you will be much more motivated to do them. It makes it fun almost. And then just start. Every little bit helps. Start one system at a time, start to finish, start using it, let it become routine, add another one in. And you will stay much more motivated. Don't use shoulds or other people's ideas or comparisons to magazines and TV shows be your motivation, because that won't work. We can't live up to those expectations and standards, so it's much better to just go ahead and figure out what you want and make that happen. And reverse engineer. So that's the other place I see people messing up their systems and getting unmotivated because they aren't workable systems, is creating something very elaborate with 20 steps that aren't even necessary for the whatever it is you're trying to get done. So for instance, if you are doing a grocery thing, you don't need to look in cookbooks and come up with new recipes every single week. If your goal is to feed your family healthily and easily, because you're busy people and you need to do other things. Instead, reverse engineer it. Come up with 30 recipes that you love, are easy to cook, and you can regularly have the ingredients on hand to make most of those recipes. And then have Taco Tuesdays and Burrito Fridays and Spaghetti Wednesdays, or come up with your favorite recipes and make them regular, and then have 1 or 2 nights a week be a rotating thing that doesn't get made as often. But the more often you do a task, the easier it gets. You get practice in, and it becomes faster. So the shopping becomes faster, the preparing gets faster, the serving and the storage and the cleanup all get faster if you do the same things regularly. If you go to a cookbook every week and plan from scratch a meal, and then go to the store and buy just the stuff for that one meal, and then you try it out and it's the first time and it's new, it takes a lot longer. So depending on what your goal is, if you're trying to save time and feed people healthily, just reverse engineer it. And then you can still experiment once or twice a week, once or twice a month. I do once a month, I try a new recipe. But other than that, I cook the same old things year after year, day in, day out, and it just makes things a lot easier and faster. And I can be motivated. So you can do that kind of thing with every system. The garden tools in your garage, the how you deal with clients at work, all kinds of systems can be created that way. What is the minimum required to make that happen? And reverse engineer it from there. How fancy do you want it to be? How many extra steps do you want to put in place just to make it prettier or more complicated? Most of the time you don't. You don't want to do that. You just want to keep it simple and get it done. Then you can have more fun and more free time. It's all the same. All these things are connected. All of these questions always go back to the same thing. How can I have more free time? By getting organized. Just like Bonnie asked me 3 years ago or more. All right, I guess that's it. No other question. I have another viewer, but I don't seem to have a question. Anyway, if I miss your question and you had something pressing, put it on the Facebook page, More Than Organized on Facebook, or shoot me an email or reply to the email that gave you the details on how to log in here. And I apologize if I didn't get it, but I need them ahead of time so I can be all set up. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate your time. And join me next month. The August webinar will be on the 11th, so I will see you then. And I will probably do it at this 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock Mountain Time hour. I have to look at my chart. I've been practicing with the timing. This seems like a better time for most people. So I will see you in August. Thanks so much. Take care.